I moved into this house in December of 2023, so right before the new year. And I'm lucky enough that I have my own studio space in the house. It's my own room for all my creative stuff. And I thought that I would give you guys a tour of it. I'm also gonna put up some sound dampening foam and some lights and answer some Q&A questions from Instagram. So if you're into that, then stick around. This is kind of the main corner of the studio. My drafting table, which I use as a desk, computer, and my easel. I have all of my art supplies organized on this rolling cart. Not all of my art supplies. I have a lot more than that, but the main ones that I use. And then I made this rack for all my paints because I primarily use water mixable oil paints. This is my palette. I use tile from Home Depot as my palette. This is a painting that I'm working on currently. And my easel for when I do bigger paintings. I usually paint on this easel, but when I'm using just paper, I don't use the easel. This is the oil and acrylic paper by Canson, which is amazing. This is actually my first time using it, and I really like it. So from here, I've got a little corner where I have some incense. I got this really cool chimney thing from a store in my neighborhood. And this is just some more art supplies. I keep wood panels that I haven't painted on yet. This is my palette box where I keep the tile. My guitar. It's a tiny guitar. I've had it since I was a little kid, but I still play it. And then I have my stair stepper. In here is a mess, but it's also where I have my printer, Cricut, paper and notebooks and stuff. Back there is all of my art market stuff. I haven't done a market in a while, but keep all the supplies and everything. This is one of my terrariums. I keep my jumping spider in here. It's a 18 by 18 by 18 Exoterra, but I thought that she deserved lots of space to roam around. It's her up there. She spends most of her time right there under the light for some reason, even though she has a whole forest. But her name is Lucille. Having nature in my art studio is huge for me, so important for me and my creativity. In here is a way smaller jumping spider named Matilda, and that's a plant cutting that has her babies on it. They haven't hatched yet. You can't even really see it, but there's an egg sac on there that hasn't hatched yet. Anyway, Matilda is a neon species of jumping spider, so she's like literally the size of a quinoa. I don't know where she is. She's in there somewhere. And then Lucille is a regal jumping spider, so she's a little bit bigger. And this corner is where my little sofa is that I made. I built this out of wood, and I made this little coffee table too. The stuff that's all over the table is the foam panels and the lights that I'm going to be putting up today. I'm going to put them up on this wall so that I can make more YouTube videos without so much sound reflection. And this is kind of like my cozy corner. So this is one of my tarantulas. That's Grim. I've had her for longer than any of my spiders. If you couldn't tell, I'm a big spider fan. And then Ghost is in here. It's just a shot of his underside. Sorry if that's creepy, but that's how he spends a bunch of his time, is under the dirt. And all of my books, some plants, vintage camera, sewing basket. These are a bunch of dried mushrooms that I found when I lived in Washington still. I use this dresser mostly as storage for various art supplies. And then these two. This is Binks. And this is Olive. And this is their giant dog bed that lives in the studio. I do have one other pet. He's a hognose snake, and I'll insert a clip of him into the video so that you can see him too. He lives out in the living room, so he is not in my art studio. And here's kind of a wide angle view so you can see the whole thing. So I guess now we can put up these foam things. So let's get to it. Maybe since I'll be struggling a little bit and working with this, I'll do some voiceover of the Q&A part. So answer some questions while I'm putting these up. So the first question I have is, what was your exposure to art growing up and how has it influenced you now? A lot of my exposure to art growing up was in high school, actually. I was taking tons of art classes. I was super interested in it. I took studio art and music classes and pretty much any art class they would allow me to take. I, at one point, had half of my day filled with art classes. And I think it influenced me the most in the way of making art feel like just a normal part of life for me. Like, I can't really imagine life without doing something creative. The next question is asking basically for advice on selling art. And honestly, I really haven't delved into this too much, but I have had some success selling online through social media. I also have sold at like markets, like art markets on the weekends, which does okay. Not everybody is there to buy. A lot of people are just there to look, but honestly, at this point, I don't know if I have a ton of advice on how to sell your art, but hopefully I'll figure more about that soon. I know that having your own website is a big help, so that's one tip I definitely have. Plus, just being active online, showing people your art and explaining it and talking about your process and the meaning of your art. The next question is asking, if you had $20 billion but you couldn't spend it on anyone else, what would you do? The first thing I would do is pay off the debt that I have. I really don't have much, but having any debt really is kind of constantly weighing on me. And then, of course, I would buy the coolest house that I could find or just build one from scratch. And I would just build as much of a independent life as I possibly could for myself and my family, and kind of use the money to set myself up for success for the future and invest it and build the ideal life. Also, I would buy a restored old Bronco because that's my dream vehicle. The next question is asking, are your parents creative? And both of my parents are creative, as well as my stepmom. I definitely come from some creative people, and I feel like it has heavily influenced me and encouraged me to pursue my creative endeavors pretty much my whole life. Next is, who is an artist you are most inspired by and why? And there are two artists that are like modern day artists that come to mind. One is Brooke Cormier and the other is Alpay Efe. I hope that I'm saying his name right, but they both inspire me a lot because they both have this kind of realistic style with some abstract elements to it, which is really what I enjoy looking at and what I strive for with my work. They also both seem to just fearlessly experiment, which I really admire a lot. And the last question is, do you play an instrument? And I play guitar kind of off and on, just casually. And in school, I played saxophone and flute. I also have a cello that I really want to get fixed up. And that is all the questions that I have for now. I hope you enjoyed this kind of new style video for me. I thought it would be fun to kind of show you guys my new studio and have you come along for setting some stuff up. I really like my new little background. and it gets really cute and cozy, and the studio has a totally different feel at night now. So if you want to check out this video, this is about my feelings on social media and creativity and the effect that it has on creativity. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.